Welcome to the Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs podcast, a place for podcasters to learn what's actually working in the world of podcasting and how to use their podcast to generate consistent leads in their business. I'm your host, Jenny, and I'm so excited you're here.
Hey, Savvies, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm super happy that you're here, and I cannot wait to get into today's episode. So in this episode, I'm sharing 3 tips to optimize your episode descriptions. I have been an avid podcast listener since 2015 when I discovered the podcast called Serial, which was a huge hit, not only in the United States, but I think globally. And I've seen my fair share of podcast episode descriptions, both good and bad. So I'm really excited about this topic. And if you are taking your podcast seriously, you definitely need to focus on improving your episode descriptions so that your listeners are able to figure out if the episode is for them before even having to hit play. And they can easily grab any links that they need that you mentioned in the episode, also links to connect with you, things like that. So let's just get right into it. So the first tip I have for you is to mention keywords throughout your episode description. So in the planning stage, before you've even recorded your episode, you definitely need to determine your episode keywords. It's important to do this before even hitting record so that you can strategically weave them into your episode in both the description, the show notes, and as you're talking about the episode, as you're going through the motions. Because while Google can't quite listen to your voice yet, they're working on it. Because while Google can't quite listen to your voice yet in your episodes, which I am 100% sure that's something they are working on, but it's only a matter of time before that's possible. So you want to get ahead of the game and start doing it before it's even capable of doing that. And when it comes to your episode description, I have a pro tip for you. So you always want to try to put your keywords as close to the beginning of the episode description as possible, just to maximize the chances of it getting read by Google and things like that. And while you should be mentioning your keywords throughout your episode, it is definitely important not to keyword stuff. And keyword stuffing is when you're just putting it there and it doesn't really make sense. So if you didn't have sentences, you were just sitting there stuffing a bunch of keywords one after the other, not in a sentence format, just doing it to appeal to SEO, which in the long run does not appeal to SEO and can end up having some repercussions if you're not careful. So definitely do not keyword stuff. That is not good. The second tip I have for you is to not be afraid to use bold/italics to showcase important points in your episode description. So your episode description should include 1 to 2 paragraphs enticing the listener to push play. Any key points from the episode. You can also put timestamps here. I really like to do that. You don't have to, but definitely include the key points. And then a links mention section in addition to a connect with the host or the guest kind of section. But those are definitely the bare minimum things that you need. And when it comes to the important points mentioned, I want to say don't forget to use a mix of bold and italics to add some visual interest and kind of make certain things stand apart. So it's not just plain text all the way throughout and nothing's catching people's eye. And then the third tip I have for you is to not forget to include any links mentioned throughout the episode. I'm sure you've visited someone's episode description before to find it completely empty or just pretty basic when you were hoping to find a link to something that they mentioned in the episode. This is doing a huge disservice to your listeners because most of them thought that it would be available in your show notes because you probably mentioned that it would be, and then they come to find that it's not, and then it's kind of a turnoff. And a lot of the time they weren't always listening to the link on the show, or they forgot it because they were busy driving or walking their dog or doing the dishes or something where they couldn't stop and visit that link right as you said it. So they were counting on you to have that in the show notes. So make sure you have any links mentioned in the show notes. Even if you think it's something oh, this is not that important, but you talked about it, please link it. I know sometimes when I talk about certain things in episodes, I'll mention randomly a tool that I really love. And it's really important to link that in the show notes because what if someone wants to use that tool, but then they can't remember what it's called? They're not going to spend the time and go and find it in the episode and then write it down. Like, you need to make it easy for them so that they continue coming back for more because they trust you. They know you're putting time and effort into not just the recording, but the after process as well. So just do it for your listeners. I promise it's going to be worth it. So I would love to know, are you currently optimizing your episode descriptions, or is it usually an afterthought? Because you don't want it to be an afterthought, as you could tell. So I want to hear from you over on Instagram. My handle is at jenny.sunneson. So that's JENNY.SUNESON. Let's chat about it. Episode descriptions are really important. So let's get those optimized. And until next time, friends.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast player like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Stitcher, and leave a review. You can find us at savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com and on Facebook at Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs and Instagram at Savvy Podcasting. Make sure to join our free Facebook community for podcasters by going to savvypodcastingforentrepreneurs.com/community and join in on the exclusive community just for Savvy Podcasting for Entrepreneurs listeners. I'll see you there.